What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of What is Health, and today, intuitive or tracking? Alright guys, real quick, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and hit that bell so you get notified when I make one of these videos. Also, let me know, I got a new mic. As you can see, I'm really trying to step up the quality for you guys, so let me know if this mic sounds good, if you like this better than the other audio quality that we've been doing. But without further ado, let's get into the nitty gritty of the video. I'm sure you've been asking yourself for this for a long time. Should I track macros or should I eat intuitively? And to be honest, I would have always have told you to track macros. I might have been like, well, trying to be the team player, you can be intuitive, but I knew nothing about intuitive eating. But here lately, the past 2 weeks, I've been doing this intuitive eating approach, and let me tell you, it's another animal. And I've gathered some more anecdotal, personal thoughts on it. And so I thought maybe from a healthy relationship with food perspective, this would be a great episode of What is Health. So first, let's talk about the pros and cons of tracking macros. So I used to suffer from bulimia. I've been in recovery for 3 years, but I've had bulimia for 10. And tracking was at first something I did to lose weight. It became an obsession. It made me, I would track things and then feel bad, make myself throw up. But then when I turned into a bodybuilder and did bodybuilding for 2 years, I got really, really tight with my macros. And it gave me true control over my food while I was trying to overcome my eating disorders. And so I think macros can be pros. It can be great for getting control of your eating habits. I think that for a lot of people that binge eat and they have a lot of weight to lose, we tend to eat more than we think we do, and tracking can kind of give us a better idea of what that food amount actually looks like. It also can keep us going off the rails. I have a lot of clients that all they do is screenshot me their macros every night, and the fact that they have to put down what they eat stops them from overeating. And so it kind of gives you that accountability without having another person over your shoulder at all times. Having to see what you eat and see it for what it is. And a lot of people love to live with their heads in the sand. And so ignorance is really a bliss when it comes to eating disorders. And so tracking allows you to kind of tear that veil off and see it for what it is and gain control. It's also great for trying to lose weight in a calculated way, calories in versus calories out. And while hormones and all that matter, there is a truth to eating less than what you burn makes you lose weight. And so having control over that and being able to manipulate that down to the number and down to the gram can be very beneficial. And then also, obviously, you're controlling all the variables. So when you're tracking, you get really into it, you start tracking potassium, magnesium, sodium, you start tracking all these things. Now you have a lot of control, and it can be really, really good, right? So those are the pros of tracking macros. They're great for particular goals and weight loss goals. They're great for people that binge eat and want accountability and want to gain control of their food. And they're great for controlling all the variables and being able to manipulate what you need to get to your desired goal or destination. Now, the consequences. There's some cons to tracking. One is it becomes very obsessive. You get to the point where even when you're trying to live normal life, you can't help but track. I used to always think that was a cool thing. I always thought it was cool that I was so into tracking that even if I wasn't really tracking calories, I would still track all my food for the day. And while people can still justify that as okay, and I'm not saying everybody's obsessive when they do that. For me, I took a step back and realized that that's quite obsessive. The fact that I'm doing something just to make sure, because here's the thing though, is that while that might be true, if I did go over a certain calorie amount, I would start feeling fat. I would start checking the mirror more. All these tendencies would happen. And so, for advice, if you're going to be tracking macros, watch out for those kinds of signs. If you're tracking macros and then you decide to have a day off, but you track anyways, and then you find that if you go over what you're normally eating and you see that it causes you to start thinking negative thoughts, it starts causing you to stare in the mirror and pinch skin and start calling yourself bad names and speaking down to yourself in a negative way, then tracking macros, it might be something you need to take a break from and really separate yourself, which can be hard when you're so used to knowing exactly what you're eating. Not being able to do that is, it can be really detrimental. And so you really have to figure out in that where you need to be, what's the line between obsessive and just being in control of your eating. Because there are some people that have serious binge eating disorders. They can't not track because it's so easy for their emotions to get in and they just overeat. it's not about hunger signaling. You know, they've had binge eating disorder for 30, 40 years, and so like becoming an intuitive eater for them is just it almost is impossible, and they don't want to deal with the things to get there, because, and we'll get into that in a second. So really kind of gauge that, but I would say that if it's becoming obsessive, maybe take a week off, maybe take a break, and realize that, you know, even if you're tracking macros, if you're at maintenance and you're not have a particular weight loss goal, that you're going to have days that are higher than others, and that's okay. Like, humans naturally eat less some days and eat more on other days, even if you're tracking. So that's really the only con, I think, for tracking, is they become quite obsessive if you don't treat it in a healthy way. So I would just take some time to really evaluate where you stand and if it's the right way for you to go. Now, intuitive eating. This one's a new one for me. This is a monster. So what are the pros of intuitive eating? Well, the pros are you're eating like your ancestors. You're eating more some days, you're eating less other days, you're listening to your body, you're eating when you're actually hungry, you're not eating when you're not. So, I mean, that's one of the biggest pros, is you're eating like your ancestors. The second one is it takes complete obsession off of food. So, like, you know, the idea, a healthy intuitive eater does not think about food all the time. They enjoy their food, they're excited about their food when they eat it, but food is not an obsession, they don't have a macro goal, they don't have those kinds of things going on, and so food is just kind of like, it's something that, it's a fuel that can be enjoyed. And so I would say that the two biggest pros of intuitive eating are, you know, you're eating like your ancestors and your body likes it. Your body likes to go with the flow and needs what it needs when it needs it, and not necessarily overloading it one day and undercutting it the next, but just giving it what it needs as it needs it. Your body likes to thrive like that. And then the second thing would be obviously disconnecting from food as a goal or a focus in your life. And it's just kind of, it's a fuel source that allows you to perform well, allows me to perform well, but it's just a fuel that can be enjoyed. Now, what are the cons of intuitive eating? For me, there's a lot. There's a lot. And it's funny because I'm going to bring this back around, but like, there's a lot of consequences to intuitive eating in terms of, like, if you have an eating disorder, intuitive eating is very difficult because you go through these weird places, like, especially if you're used to tracking macros. Like for me, for instance, you know, I'll have days where I'm not hungry, but I'll eat anyways because I feel like I need to, because when I had macros, even if I wasn't hungry, I ate my macros because, like, that was my control. So I just ate what I was supposed to eat. So, like, but you're trying not to do that, and so there's like this battle going on in your head. And then, like, you know, obviously you have days where, like, the scale will go up because you had too much salt the day before, or you were working out hard and you're really, really sore, and so your body's super inflamed. You know, you might put on 6, 7 pounds in one day of just pure fluid and water retention. And when you were on macros, you know, it was kind of like, oh, well, I'll just stick to the macros. It was almost easier not to try and react negatively, because it was like, okay, like, I could just fast today, but I have a goal. I have macros. I'm going to hit them. Trust the process. I just won't eat X food again. With intuitive eating, though, that's not there. And so, like, you start battling your head of, like, okay, I'm just not going to eat today because I'm not really hungry, because I ate so much yesterday. And so, like, there's this tug and pull that goes on. And so that creates a very big con when you're working through it. Another con is obviously, like, if you're trying to build muscle or you're trying to get shredded for, like, a bodybuilding show, intuitive eating can be really hard because you can't exactly control the variables. And so I would say those are the two big consequences. For me, it's like, from an eating disorders perspective or like an obsessive macro tracker perspective, you can't respond the way you used to. And so you have to literally learn a new language. It's like literally learning a new language, like talking to your body in a very different way. And I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, and it is extremely difficult. And then the second con would be you can't really control variables. So if you have a particular body composition goal, it can be difficult to obtain that. That doesn't mean it's not doable intuitively. You would just, you know, if you're a little hungry, you just won't eat still. And if you really get hungry, then you'll eat. And you kind of, like, listen to your body in that, and, you know, put it to the edge of hunger, just, like, not make sure it's fully satiated all the time. And that'll generally result in lower calories. But as you can see, that's a lot more complicated than just calories. So those are the two cons. Now, here's the thing, though, and then I'm going to leave with this on this. It's so worth it. The level of freedom that I have started to develop with food in the past 2 weeks has been uncanny. Yes, it's hard. I have a lot of ups and downs. I have a lot of emotional moments. I try to share it on Instagram. I've been sharing it on my Instagram. You should go follow me at the Keto Road. There's a lot of tug and pull. And, like, I'm learning a new language, and it's just like in Spanish class when you're taking your first exam and you're, like, scratching your head because you have no idea what the hell you're reading. It's the same kind of concept. It's like you don't know how to respond in some of these situations, and you want to respond the old way, but the old way is not going to work. And so you have to like sit down and chew on it for a moment and respond in a new way that's going to work. And you might not be right the first time, and that's okay. Like life's about making those mistakes and getting better, but it gets better. It gets better. You know, where I'm at now is not where I was 2 weeks ago. I'm learning to trust my body. You know, I'm learning to like, you know, when I'm not hungry, I just don't eat. And you know, and it's interesting because like I've been able to be more productive with my time because I didn't realize how much effort I had put into thought into food. And now that I'm not hungry, I'm not running back to the pantry. I'm not like marinating food yet because like I'm not really hungry. So it's not like it's not really on my mind. And so the same concept, like it's a new language and it's freeing and it's new and I love it. I love that it flows with my training. You know, if I run more, I'm hungrier. If I run less, I'm not as hungry. And so I enjoy doing this. And so really one of my big pieces is like no matter which one you do the one that's going to get you to your goal. Because right now my goal is evolving my eating disorder, like getting, building an even healthier relationship with food, developing a new side of my relationship with food I've never had. That's my goal. And then obviously letting it flow with my performance training. So this works for me. It might not work for you. So you need to sit down with your goals, look at the pros and cons we talked about on the video and go, what is best for me to reach my goals? And understand that whichever one you go on, there's going to be bad times. There's going to be hard moments. Whether you're trying to get control of your eating or you're trying to listen to your body and go more innate with its innate wisdom. Both of those are going to come with trial and error. You're going to mess up. You're not going to be perfect. But I promise you, it gets better. 100%. So that's it, guys. That's my spill on intuitive versus macros. I hope you enjoyed it. Put comments in the comment section below. Ask some questions. I would love to dive deeper into this with you guys. Let me know what else y'all want to know about on this series. I love y'all. Till next time.